Leland Vittert right now.
Cuomo, I watched your whole show. It's fantastic. I think Carville, Raging Cajun, agree, disagree, always a good voice. Harvey Levin, interesting insight and analysis. I couldn't stop thinking about one thing all show. You know what it was?
The Knicks?
Your tan. What were you doing all weekend?
This is actually a tan, and if I didn't want you to lose your dinner, I would show you my stomach. I fell asleep laying next to my son, Muscles Marinara, and I look like a tomato. This thing, Corinne made me look TV, presentable, but I'm not having a good day.
Hey, put it on Instagram. You'll get some more followers. All right, I'll let you get to the aloe vera. Great show. I'll see you soon, buddy.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, what a visual to start the show off. The Trump presidency is now coming into focus. Donald Trump was a 1990s Democrat in New York City, and he's now governing a lot like Bill Clinton. Just listen to how similar they sound. Trump today, Clinton all the way back, when talking about lowering the cost of prescription drugs in America.
We desperately need a comprehensive plan to provide a prescription drug benefit that is optional, affordable, accessible to all, based on competition, not price controls, to boost seniors' bargaining power to get the best possible price.
We'll slash the cost of prescription drugs, and we will bring fairness to America. Drug prices will come down. We're going to cut out the middlemen and facilitate the direct sale of drugs at the most favored nation price directly to the American citizen.
So make no mistake, President Trump's new prescription drug plan to lower drug prices is the first step towards socialized medicine. Trump now appears to be a socially conservative, fiscally liberal president, much like former President Bill Clinton was for his time. That's our Why It Matters segment tonight. Much like Trump, Clinton didn't really believe in anything. He was, in a word, flexible. When Hillary Care and his other progressive policies didn't work in the early 90s, he pivoted. Trump is doing the exact same thing now, and is why today is the best day of either of his presidencies so far. Let's review. Hamas released hostage Adnan Alexander, the last Israeli-American hostage held in Gaza. His family called it the greatest gift imaginable. You cannot stop watching the reunion video with his mother. The president claimed victory on trade with China. In reality, deal's a little far away, but Trump appears to be moving in the right direction.
We achieved a total reset with China after productive talks in Geneva. Both sides now agreed to reduce the tariffs imposed after April 2nd to 10% for 90 days as negotiators continue in the largest structural issues.
On Capitol Hill, Republicans in Congress gave up all their conservative principles and presented one big, beautiful bill with all of Trump's wishes in one. Another huge win for Donald Trump. And now the president is about to arrive in the Middle East, where he'll look to bring in $1 trillion in investment from 3 countries. He's on his way to Saudi Arabia right now. But amid all of this winning, and there were a lot of wins today, came another Trump unforced error. Trump said he would accept Qatar's gift of a $400 million flying palace. It's actually the Qatari royal family's customized 747.
I think that was a very nice gesture. Now, I could be a stupid person and say, oh, no, we don't want a free plane. We give free things out. We'll take one, too.
Trump faced the wrath of plenty of conservatives for flirting with the idea of taking this plane that would become Air Force One for a couple of years. Firebrand Laura Loomer even broke with the president on this issue. There is no one more MAGA than Laura Loomer. She posted, I love President Trump. I would take a bullet for him, but I have to call a spade a spade. We cannot accept a $400 million gift from jihadis in suits. Then there's Bayangar Sargon, who's become one of Trump's most vocal supporters. And then there's also conservative radio host Eric Erickson.
This is not a gift. This is Qatar, a state sponsor of terror that has Hamas in the palm of its hand, giving a bribe.
I do not think the president of the United States of America should sit and fly on a plane purchased with the same money used to murder American citizens. And that's what Qatar does.
So remember when I said Trump is like Clinton? At the height of Clinton's popularity, his worst instincts took over. Enter Monica Lewinsky. So maybe that explains why, when Trump is having the best day of either presidential term, he does something so inexplicable, like flirting with taking a 747 from Qatar. We begin tonight with Bill O'Reilly, host of the No Spin News, author of the upcoming book, Confronting Evil, Assessing the Worst of the Worst. I'm guessing, Bill, you're going to tell me that the plane just doesn't matter.
I got to find out what the deal is. I'm very curious to know what the conservatives are talking about when they say that the government of Qatar is funding the jihadists in the present tense. I'd like to see the data behind that. Do you know what the data is there, Leland?
Yes. They still harbor Hamas.
Go.
They still harbor Hamas.
Well,
They're
how?
protectors of the Muslim Brotherhood
How?
because Hamas guys are living there.
They're living there?
Yes.
Hamas guys?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Where are they
Okay.
living? Do you know?
What, you want their address, Bill? Come on.
Well, I mean, I didn't know that. Look, we have a huge CIA station in Qatar. We have troops on the ground in Qatar, and you're telling me Hamas big shots live next door? Is that what you're telling me?
Bill, we'll just listen to your bite in 2017. Take a listen.
The nation of Qatar, unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism at a very high level. The time had come to call on Qatar to end its funding. They have to end that funding and its extremist ideology in terms of funding.
Okay. So you go from
That was
that
8 years ago.
to now. I understand that. You go from that to now. Help me understand, though. And let's just take exactly what Qatar is doing at this very moment out of this for 1 second. Donald Trump knows how the game is played. He just had one of the best days of his political career. Why give Trump haters a win like this?
Because he doesn't see anything wrong with taking the plane. It's a gift. And as he pointed out, and I don't think I would take the plane if I were him.
Right.
But he's doing it as saying, but there's a reason he's doing it. He's going, look, I'm going to save all this money. Boeing has blown it. They can't build a plane. Our Air Force One is 40 years old now. That's a safety hazard. So these guys are going to give me a plane tomorrow. I'll take it. We have done unbelievable amounts of things for them.
It makes us look weak.
Spent a lot of money protecting them. So we did them a favor. They did us a favor. I don't really care about this. What I do care about, Leland, and what you should care about, is all of this BS about, they're funding terrorists, they're doing this. I don't believe that for a minute, okay? You got Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, and Qatar desperately wanting Iran to go down. You know that because you covered the Middle East. It's tribal. They desperately want Iran to go down. And they're helping the United States and Israel strangle Iran. That's the present picture. I don't know Hamas guys living where. Nobody can tell me who they are, where they are. You can't. So don't throw that around unless you know. And right now, no one knows. If it were true, and Qatar was actively funding Hamas, Hezbollah, jihadists everywhere, Al-Qaeda, then I would say, why are you there, Mr. President? Why are you even going to that country?
The Qataris play both sides of it. They always have.
Right now.
Okay. Well,
tough to do.
Okay, so again, why in this moment when Trump can have all these wins? It reminds me a little bit like when the left says you have to hate Putin, and he goes, no, Putin's a very good guy. If he thinks the left is going to be angry, if ABC News puts out a story about this plane that objectively does not look good for the American president to be taking planes from people with some really questionable friends, he has to go ahead and say, absolutely, I'm going to take the plane because it makes me look smart. It's worst instincts.
I don't know whether he has to do that. The plane came first, and then all the other stuff came after the plane. So if you look at the timeline, he was on record going, oh, yeah, they're offering me the plane. I'm going to take it, and then I'm going to put it to my library, just like Reagan did in Simi Valley. I don't really think this is a big deal, Leland. Maybe I'm wrong here.
Okay.
I don't think Trump's making some kind of deal. I just think it's the usual. Trump does something good, like the prescription drug thing, which is good for the folks, good for the senior citizens. He gets the Hamas guy out, which is good.
Great.
He has broken the stalemate with China, and it looks like they're on a positive path. That's good.
Yep.
He's got Putin meeting with Zelensky on Thursday. That's good. But all the networks want to talk about is a stupid
But
plane.
and all he could have
right.
said, and he could have said at the press conference,
He
the United
could've.
States of
It's
America
not
does
who he
not
is.
take planes from anybody, and I'm going to deal with Boeing.
He wants the plane.
Right, he wants the plane. That's the
He,
that,
he
right.
likes the plane.
Okay, you wanted to talk
So
about the
that's who he
pharmaceutical
is.
thing. You wanted right. That I think we're in agreement here. You want to talk about pharmaceuticals. This is what he had to say about lowering prescription drug prices today. Take a listen.
So we're no longer paying 10 times more than another country. Whoever is paying the lowest price, we will look at that price and we will say that's the price we're going to pay.
Okay. This is sort of like what Bernie Sanders has always wanted to do. It's exactly what Obama always wanted to do. It's exactly what Bill Clinton always wanted to do. Why is it different when Donald Trump wants to do it?
Because he's actually doing it. That's why. Biden could have done it. Every Democrat in the country should be toasting Trump tonight because of this prescription drug. If they were really sincere Democrats and really wanted to help American seniors, but they're not. Look, like him or not, Trump's getting things done, right? Biden sat there for 4 years. It's not what about. It's just giving you some perspective.
Yeah.
And did jack, nothing, zero. Hurt the country in every way you could possibly hurt the country. Trump comes in and says, look, this is a bad deal that Germany has got, 80% less for an American prescription drug, and we're not going to do that anymore. What the deuce is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? And he'll deliver. Trump will get lower prescription drug prices.
Okay, so we can.
And will one Democrat in the country go like this? Will anyone applaud Leland?
Well,
no.
To be fair, Ro Khanna, progressive in the House, said, why don't we work with Republicans and co-sponsor legislation with Bernie Sanders? This was an executive order and basically told the pharmaceutical companies, hey, you better lower your prices and come back to me. There's very little the president can do on this.
On Medicare.
Yeah. Pharma stock prices
I can
today.
do it with Medicare.
Big pharma stocks jumped Monday after dropping in the pre-market hours. So if all of a sudden everybody's going to be paying less for prescription drugs, why did the pharmaceutical companies go up?
I don't know. How's that? I don't know.
Okay. You think it's going to happen?
I would have bought it. If I knew, I would have bought them before it opened. I don't know why they're going up. All I know is this. Whatever President Trump does is going to be bad to the opposition, the resistance. Doesn't matter what he does. It's going to be bad.
Okay. Where do you see the Trump presidency going in the sense of this? I think the Bill Clinton example and comparison is pretty adept on trade, on downsizing government, on immigration. They sound identical. We had all the sound bites. We kept playing them back to back. There are a lot of Republicans, especially during Joe Biden's term, who went back and kept harking and saying, gee, I love Bill Clinton. Couldn't we go back to Bill Clinton? Where's a Bill Clinton Democrat back during Biden's term? Are there going to be Democrats in a couple of years going, oh, God, can we please go back to Donald Trump?
No, never. I don't know where the Trump administration is going, but I know they'll get there fast with the new Qatar jet. Okay, it'll be quick wherever they're going. And the other thing is, they shouldn't get too cocky here, the Trump people, because all of the people they are dealing with are devious. Putin's evil. Xi, probably evil. I don't know him that well. I don't want to say he's evil because I'm going to China and I don't want to wind up in some camp in the western part of that country. But all of them, across the board, every deal that Trump is making, he's making with less than honorable people who can turn around and just do anything they want. The measure of a man, Leland, a good man, is that he does what he says he will do, and a woman as well. None of these people fit into that category.
Yep.
Not the mullahs, not Putin, not the Qataris, not anybody that we're dealing with, particularly China. So, as you said accurately at the top of this was the best day ever today for the Trump administration. Mark it up 1,100 points, the Dow, okay? But don't get cocky, because tomorrow these people could just shove it right in your face.
Well, good advice. I think that's true about anything in life, is it not?
No, there are some good people.
I meant don't get cocky.
I hang with them.
Well, that's why you and I hang together.
Well, not so much, Leland. I give you a little bit of rope, but it's like Cuomo. It's, I can a little. But
now
no,
you're
you
comparing
guys
me
are
to
good
Cuomo?
guys. I want to tell, somewhat. I want to tell the NewsNation audience, okay, I wouldn't do this. I don't need to do it, all right, if I thought you guys were bad guys.
Well, thank you.
I would never do it.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
years.
I appreciate that.
And that'll probably be the last nice thing I ever say to you, unless you wise up.
Yes, sir. It's good talking to you, Bill. Sean Diddy Combs' defense doesn't deny his morally repugnant behavior, but says that doesn't prove sex trafficking. Will Diddy end up walking free? There is this serious ick factor to the Sean Diddy Combs story. His trial for sex trafficking started today in New York, but revolting, repugnant, morally reprehensible behavior is not a crime in America. That's a good thing, by the way. His lawyer said as much. Diddy may be, quote, mean or a jerk, understatements of the century, and that violence did take place, but in their words, domestic violence is not sex trafficking. And that's the crux of this trial. His defense team isn't trying to make the music mogul seem like a nice guy or one that's even respected for that matter. They just want to drive home that his sexual endeavors and domestic abuse doesn't mean he's a sex trafficker. It's a low bar. But that's exactly what prosecutors need to prove. And the trial began by showing jurors a video of Diddy allegedly abusing his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, at a hotel. Prosecutors are trying to make it clear to jurors what the man is capable of. And there was more about all the vile sex acts that he paid both men and women to engage in. With us now, Barrett Berger, former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, the district where the Diddy trial is taking place. It's good to see you. Thank you. I guess if we zoom out for a second, they're showing this video of horribly violent behavior. They're having people testify to really disgusting things that he did with them. And it all seems as though he was paying people to commit very lewd sex acts all the time. Does a jury, what's the leap to a jury then having to believe we should throw this guy in jail for the rest of his life?
Yeah, so I think the leap is if he was doing so by means of either force, fraud, or coercion, because that's what the statute says. So even though it might be a state crime to engage in what they call domestic violence, even it might be a state crime to engage in prostitution, what really ratchets it up to a federal crime, what makes it the federal crime of sex trafficking, is if he's doing these various acts by coercing people, by forcing them to take drugs, by the use of violence. We've seen evidence of all three of these things just in day one today. So that's what takes it to that level.
It was very clear for a long time Sean Combs enjoyed living with the elite of the elite. His white parties in the Hamptons were the invite to have. He had a key to the city from the mayor in New York, on and on and on. Yet, somehow missing from all of these tapes, all of this trial, is any of those celebrities that were around him all the time. And that somehow we're to believe they didn't see any of this terrible behavior.
Well, remember, we're only on day one. I wouldn't be shocked if we continue to hear about and possibly from some of these people. But you're right. If what the prosecution is saying is true, it must have been the worst kept secret, because it's not like these things were happening all the time in private, it seems like he was in some ways very open about this behavior. If, he was doing some of these at these parties where multiple people were there. But just to bring it back, part of what the prosecution has charged is that this was not him acting alone on an island. They've charged this as an enterprise, which means that not only was he committing these sex trafficking, assaults, things like that, but he was doing so with the help of other people, and that he was directing these other people. So we're not only going to hear about, and possibly from celebrities, we're going to hear from workers, from people that were part of his orbit, that helped him engage in these crimes, that helped him cover up these crimes. That's what takes this from what the defense is painting as domestic violence into what the prosecution is painting as an enterprise.
Okay. If so, in an enterprise, there's normally a lot of other people involved. I guess we wait to see where that goes. A lot is being made of this jury, about half white, half black. By our count, according to the defense, the government struck 7 black people, which we believe amounts to a pattern, and it's our request that the government give neutral reasons for those strikes. It almost seems to me like the Diddy defense is going to be a little bit like the OJ defense.
Yeah, and we've already heard that the judge was really shutting them down for sort of encroaching on that, for statements they had made about the 6 white female prosecutors. The judge said, we don't want to hear any more of that. I mean, I think, that is obviously a defense that they could make. It's not a legal defense. It certainly wasn't legal enough for the judge to say that the prosecution strikes were inappropriate. But what I keep coming back to is, if the prosecution has chosen the right jurors, then they've chosen jurors that are smart enough to understand the judge's instructions, because that's really where the heart of this case is going to lie. Because racketeering, sex trafficking, they're not necessarily the most straightforward cases. They're something where you have to understand the law. You have to be able to follow a judge's instruction. So the way that we'll know if they chose the right jurors, white or black, is if they chose people that can actually understand and follow the law. That's what's going to take this case over and help them separate, the noise of what's not actually legal defenses from what's actually the substance of this case.
If you were an attorney or advisor for a number of these celebrities who hung out in his orbit and was at his parties all the time, would you be worried about what will come out in this case?
Definitely. I mean, I think it's probably a good thing for them that they haven't been charged so far. And by the way, I think the defense will probably make hay of that. The fact that it's just Diddy sitting at the table by himself. They've charged an enterprise, but here we only have one person that's sitting at the defense table. So they may be able to make something of that. But I certainly would be worried if I was somebody whose name was going to come up for this. Maybe you're going to be looking at potential criminal charges, or maybe you are going to be roped into one of these many, many civil cases that have been filed. And that may be for some of these celebrities where the real danger is, not so much with criminal prosecution, but in getting wrapped up in one of these civil cases and possibly being a target of those themselves.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be some big names. There's certainly big names around him. Whether they come out or trial or not, I don't know. Hey, Barrett, thank you very much. We always learn something from you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s crusade to make America healthy again is turning, almost in a word, mean. Not a good thing. There are, of course, successes. The FDA has now approved 3 natural food colorings. This comes as he's been pushing to phase out synthetic dyes. But just last month, he ruffled some feathers with very controversial comments about the effects of autism on children and their families.
Autism destroys families. More importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which are our children. These are kids who will never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem. They'll never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. And we have to recognize we are doing this to our children, and we need to put an end to it.
But for many of those living with autism day to day, they don't see it that way, especially some from the popular Netflix reality series Love on the Spectrum. The show gives an inside look at the lives of single people across the autism spectrum as they tackle the dating world, the ups and downs that come with us. One of the stars with us now, Dani Bowman. Dani, good to see you.
It's really great seeing you, Leland.
Thank you. If you think about the larger sense of what's happening with autism and the increased awareness, the increased conversation about it, the willingness to have conversations about it. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, indeed, it is a good thing. And honestly, I see it as a progress. It's not that autism is suddenly more common, it's that we're getting better at recognizing it. When I was little, not many people understood what autism was. Some people still don't. But now, thanks to awareness and education, more kids are being identified earlier, which means they can get the support they need sooner. As someone who was diagnosed at 4 and didn't speak until I was almost 6, I know how important early diagnosis and support can be. The numbers going up isn't scary. It means fewer people are slipping through the cracks. And that's a good thing. Though we still have a long way to go with understanding and acceptance. But this is definitely a step in the right direction.
So that is the step in the right direction. I would agree with you there. RFK has said that they're going to launch this big testing and research phase on and on. I'm wondering if there's that old saying, it's not what you say, but how you're saying it. If what RFK is saying is a good thing, how he's saying it may be hurtful to folks like yourself.
It is hurtful, yes. And what I'm trying to answer to this question about saying positive things about RFK Jr.'s statements, we've made a lot of progress changing the narrative around autism, especially thanks to older self-advocates like myself and shows like Love on the Spectrum. But I do recognize that autism is a spectrum, and that means not everyone's experience is the same. Some families are facing big challenges, especially with younger kids who may be nonverbal or have more intense behavioral needs. I didn't speak until I was nearly 6, as I've mentioned, and didn't have full language until around 11. I know my family would have done anything to help me, and I understand that deep desire to fix things when you feel unheard or desperate for the answers. That said, when public figures like RFK Jr. made comments that tie autism to harmful myths or false causes, it can undermine all the progress we've made. It reinforces the idea that we're broken or in need of a cure, and that's dangerous. People on the spectrum are not tragedies. We are people with potential, challenges, talents, and stories worth sharing. Parents of severely impacted kids deserve support, resources, and hope. That's true.
Couldn't agree with you more. I want to play for you what Jillian Michaels had to say when I asked her about RFK's comments. Take a listen.
Well, what's the worst thing if it is unrealistic? What happens if it's 6 months later? I mean, here's what isn't okay. Having these chronic diseases and conditions like autism and so on and so forth not be researched to get to the bottom of what is going on. You realize that we have the worst health out of all the G7 countries, and we spend the most on healthcare. Why are we not asking these questions?
I think you'd agree that these questions are important to ask, right?
Yeah, that is definitely correct. I agree with you, Leland. But however, I don't think the autism is caused by these conditions or the food sources. However, what autism was caused by is actually caused by genetics. It caused by hereditary. It runs through the family. And yes, severity of autism can also can be caused by other health issues, such as being born premature or having fetal alcohol syndrome. Does depend on the severity of autism.
All right. Dani, congratulations. I know you had some parents who really cared so unbelievably about you and put in so much work and so much effort. You, like me, is proof that parental love can move mountains and do so much. So thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. Thank you. Now, President Trump lands in Saudi Arabia in just a few minutes from now, early in the morning in Riyadh, spends the entire week in the Middle East. We should all hope that his trip there is successful. That's what Americans do when the president is overseas. But for the president to get anything done domestically, what he wants to get done, it's going to require Congress. Senator Ted Cruz with us tomorrow on getting the president's agenda through Congress. Enton in for Banfield.